Hey guys, Chris and Sis back again, and today we're going to get a little more in-depth into our previous video on foster care and upbringing. Last time was a lot of my experience, and though we did go through the same thing at the same times, we had definitely different experiences, and our upbringings have been affected consequentially, based on what we experienced in our own ways. So today I'm going to let Sis take the reins a little bit more, and before we get into that, disclaimer.
These are the inner workings of our minds. We are not professionals. We are just sharing our journeys.
Also, quick shout out to Brandy, who requested I wear a backwards regular hat. Do your thing.
All right. So as Chris said, in the video where it was a little bit longer about foster care, I didn't talk so much in it, but I also just allowed Chris to go off and, share his experience. And, I realized I didn't quite connect with the video as much as he may have. And it took me a minute to figure out why, but it's because we had two very different experiences in the system. He was older the times that we went into it when we were younger. I don't remember a lot of them. I do remember one specific foster home where her son bullied Chris quite a bit. And at one point, she made Chris go eat his dinner outside. And I remember being terrified because we were out in the country and I thought coyotes were going to eat him.
There were other abuses in that home too that I never opened up about.
Yeah. And I remember that home.
That was a rough one for me.
That was the first home I remember going to. I don't remember how old I was. Do you remember how old you were?
9.
So I was about 6 or 7 then.
Yeah.
And I remember our younger brother Jonathan was with us too.
Yeah.
And he was about 3 years old. And
Yeah.
I remember.
Fresh, real fresh.
Yeah. So that was my first home that I remember. So 6 years old. But really, my experience in foster care has not been bad. I had more trouble with living with our father than being in actual foster care. And I think that was his goal, was to make sure that John and I would not live a life where that's all we knew. And so that's something he succeeded on, that maybe this will kind of open up what you've done for me in my life and for Jonathan's life. So really living with our father, I have a lot of flashbacks, a lot of PTSD from it.
It's important that we do kind of a preload here if it's going to be understood. You have yourself marked there where we're at?
Yeah.
Okay. So our dad owned his own construction business for a lot of our lives, a lot of our upbringings. He had an unfortunate accident that was caused intentionally by himself that resulted in many brain injuries. He then past that point, his marriage was running to the ground, and we were left without a place to go for several years. We were homeless, living in hotels, living out of the car, living at his friends' houses, sleeping on couches, efficiency, apartment rooms, whatever we could do for about 3 years. No solid place to go. And eventually the drug addiction really, overtook anything that was important to him, including us. So thus we were left at the point that we had to fend for ourselves and figure out where we were going. Hence, eventually we ended up in the foster care system, which we were in and out of 3 or 4 times previous to us going in there, on a permanent
Fully.
basis, on a real
Yeah.
setting. So when we're talking about, it was hard, living with him and, but foster care was, back and forth. That's why. That's the reasoning behind it. These are the things that we went through on a daily basis. Was, are we going to have food? Are we going to have, is the water on?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a place to stay tonight? And it was like that for several years. So now that they have a little,
Absolutely.
anybody that watches this is going to need a little background. So
Absolutely. Well, this is where I struggle with my spirituality and my physical being, because the spirituality self, something I'm still pondering is, did I choose to come here and live with the family that I was born with? I don't know. And at this point, working through my physical self, my mind, where I'm at, where I've been, my traumas, I feel like I'm going to grow more spiritually. And The first thing, I have very few memories that are good with our father. My first memory, I believe, is when I was 6 years old, and he told me Santa Claus is outside. The business across the street had a reindeer Santa Claus thing put up. I was like, oh my God, it's Santa Claus. And so that was a good memory. I think it was about 5 or 6 there. And then after that, let's skip to about the time that I stole $10 off of his TV. I went to school and I was like, oh my God, look, I got $10. And bragging to everybody, including our Uncle Chuck. Dad had a lot of friends that we called Aunt and Uncle. So told Uncle Chuck about it. He told my dad about it. And that resulted in some trigger warning, by the way. Physical punishment that, you know.
Trigger warning for this whole video. Let's just throw that out there. Like,
trigger warning.
If real life stuff is going to make you uncomfortable, you should probably just turn this off. I know we're 6 minutes in. Maybe you're already devoted, but, you know, yeah, we definitely should have done that earlier. I forgot all that.
Yeah, including the ending of this story. I'm just going to put it out there. Our dad, trigger warning, took his own life. So that's the video that you are watching right now.
That's where we're headed.
Let's skip forward to, I was about 10 years old, and 10 was a big age for me. 10 was where about 3 different events, I'm only going to touch on 2, happened to me. The first one, Dad had his own place at the time. He was only going to jail on the weekends. He went out drinking with one of his best friends one night, and I didn't ever sleep in my own room. As I've said in previous videos, I didn't feel comfortable with it, and most of my rooms were the sizes of closets. So
real stuff, like Harry Potter stuff.
Yeah, so I would sleep on the couch a lot of the time, and I just felt more comfortable because I was the only girl, and I was always given my own small closet space that I didn't really want.
Real thing.
So that night, his buddy came over, and they went out drinking. And whenever they got home, Dad told me, hey, how about you go sleep in the chair or pull out your little futon and sleep on that instead. So my friend, I'm going to keep his name silent just for purposes. So my friend can sleep on the couch. I was like, okay, cool. And like his friend was my Snicker buddy. Like we always ate Snickers bars together. We were tight, yo. So yeah, I slept on the futon, and his buddy ended up falling asleep in the armchair instead of the couch. So the next morning I woke up, and you know, Dad was getting up and walking towards the kitchen, and he went over to his buddy and slapped him on the leg like, hey buddy, let's get some coffee. Well, his buddy had passed away in his sleep, and that's when I looked up whenever Dad couldn't wake him up, and trigger warning, I saw some things a 10-year-old should not see. I saw blood, I saw foam, and I saw that this man had a heart attack, drug abuse in his sleep. And so that's when I proceeded to run into my brother's bedroom and tell them, you know, this person's dead. Dad's friend is dead.
They were screaming it, and I was asleep. I woke up to, he's dead! And I was like, whoa, what's going on? This is terrible. It was weird. It was the weirdest wake up.
It was, and then after that, I remember my blanket that I slept with, my favorite snowflake blanket, was thrown over his body until the cops came and all that stuff happened. So that was one event when I was 10 years old.
We threw that chair in a dumpster.
Yeah. It was, I don't know. Anyways, second event. We were kind of staying with our mother at the time, and Dad was running around doing his own thing. He went off on Chris's bike, and
Forgot about that.
yeah, he drove his bike, and he ended up coming home pretty late that night. And when he walked in the door, trigger warning, he was missing an eyeball. So I'm screaming. I'm like, Mom, Dad's missing an eye.
He came back in a taxi. He didn't have my bike
You
when
didn't
he
have
came
your
back.
bike?
He came back in a taxi, and it ate more than came back. He actually, like, the sliding door opened, and he just kind of fell out. And we helped him up to his feet, and we're like, what happened? He said, payback's a bleep.
So he walked into the house, and I just remember seeing the blood. And I remember Mom running into the kitchen and grabbing a bag of frozen peas to put over his eyeball. And then fast
pretty
forward,
gnarly.
yeah.
But they were gonna, whoever it was, he got into some trouble involving somebody else serving some time, and they weren't a big fan of that situation. So when they came back, the way he told it later, it was either, go take what he had coming to him, or they were gonna come after us. So, like, his own fault. That's how that played out. Thankfully,
Yeah.
he went and lost his eye.
It's just also things that children probably should not see.
That's
but
the
it's
main
just
point,
what
yeah.
it was. But it was a pivotal moment in life with Dad. You never knew what to expect.
Yeah. That's why I have so much trouble with stability at this point in my life, I think, because, I get bored so easy. It's just like there's always something happening. And now I've lived in the same place for 4 years. I've had the same job for 6 years, and I'm proud of myself. Those are both accomplishments for me. But it's still like, I got to mix it up sometimes because I'm not used to this.
I know.
It's so weird.
It's like, where are the cops at? Where's, like,
Oh, God, right?
every one of his birthdays, he was in jail or
Oh,
in the
yeah.
hospital or...
Everyone, his birthday was taboo every single year. Something bad happens on September 10th. It's right after school started, too. Super inconvenient.
And a lot of my birthday presents, my birthday September 25th, would be him getting out of jail.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But another event I want to touch on is when I was 12 years old. And 12 years old is the age that I ended life as I knew it, living with my father. 12 years old, he had this really terrible girlfriend. I don't even care if she watches this someday because she finds that she was terrible. And Dad was gone. I don't know where he was because he didn't work. But she was at home pulling my arm around, and that's the thing is he pulled a lot of different women into our lives and was like, here's your mom now. No, that's not my mom. That's a strange woman that you brought and put in front of me.
This woman yelled at me one day because I had poured a bowl of cereal, and you know how you push the cereal down into the milk before you eat cereal because that's
You
what
gotta
makes
soften
cereal
it
good cereal?
so it doesn't cut up your mouth.
Yeah, she walked up to me, what are you doing? You don't need to do that. Like, let me eat my cereal, woman. What's your deal? Like, she really sucked. Like,
No.
for real.
She was
We ain't just
pulling-
saying it. Like, she was crazy.
She was pulling my arm around like to the sink to make me do dishes, and like when she just started getting physical with me, I was like, the only reason I tried to like you, in my little 12-year-old self voice, the only reason I tried to like you is because my dad loves you. And that was a wrong thing for me to say.
But it was genuine.
It was genuine. And as I've said in other videos, I've never been a very quiet person. So, Dad gets home. She goes up to him and she's like, your daughter said this. Like, told him. I don't know what the heck she told him, though. But I really don't feel like it warranted the response that he gave me.
I don't know if you recall, but this woman could fake cry like a professional.
I don't remember because a lot of my childhood and teenage years were spent in a disassociative mindset.
Fair.
So I just remember the times where I came back to reality. Reality was, as soon as he got home, he yelled my name. He called me Bone Bone.
Boom, boom.
Bone Bone, where you at? So I ran up. Well, he proceeded to, trigger warning, spank me until I, what's a kind word for that?
Very blistered and you were bawling your eyes out.
No, I pissed myself.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well.
12 years old.
Beep.
Beep. Trigger warning. Anyways, so yeah, peed myself, and then after he was done with that, he proceeded to call juvenile detention and try to get me sent there. And then also called my biological mother and told her about how terrible I was. And he wouldn't let us live with her anyways. So I don't know why he did that. Like, come get your daughter. It's not like he would let me go. He played with our mother a lot. He really was very manipulative to her. And
he was the king of using us against her.
yes. So that was one of the last super terrible experiences I had with him as like my full-on father figure.
Yeah, real quick, just as a side note here, going out to parents that do use their children against the other parent,
Don't.
we knew what he was doing.
Yep.
And we fully realized when we were adults, and even at that point as children, we knew it was wrong.
Yep.
We saw it for what it was.
And I missed my
And
mother
we
more
did blame him when
every
we grew
day.
up. We knew what he did. Okay?
Yep.
So you're not pulling one over on kids. Like, they're smart. They're intuitive.
are.
They know what's going on. All right? And it will be held against you when they grow.
Also,
So be a good person.
when you do that, you do realize Chris and I are both parts of mom and dad.
Yeah.
Do you know how many issues I had growing up loving myself because of the terrible
for real.
things? Like,
Yeah, half of you is evil now because
Yeah.
your mom's a, this or that, or, your dad's horrible.
and mom
which-
never did that to
No,
dad.
she never did. Never.
She never did.
And we saw that too. We respected her for it. At least there
Yes.
was some peace there. you know?
Yes. There was compassion, there was love, and she just cared that we were hurt.
Yeah.
And yeah. Phew. Sorry guys, this is a heavy one.
Yeah.
I'm letting a lot out. Yesterday was Father's Day too, and
It's heavy for us as you can expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so this is kind of like, I hope that this helps me work it out a little bit better, because I didn't realize that after he's been gone for 12 years, how hard I'm still hanging on to things that he's done.
I'm just starting to let go myself too.
Okay, so yeah, a lot of my childhood, teenagehood, I disassociated. I didn't realize that till I was an adult, how much I tapped out of. I can't remember a lot of it. I only remember the specific events that tortured it into my memory. One of the last good memories I had with my dad is I broke my arm, and it was right after he lost his eyeball, and he was living with my mom and us at the time. And I woke up crying because I was in a lot of pain. And he was like, Bone, come here. And I went into the other room where he was. And he was like, here, take this. He gave me a little bit of a pain pill to help. And I lay down next to him and fell asleep. That was the last good memory I have of him.
And in that good memory, he gave you an adult narcotic.
Yes. But it still like makes me happy inside. Just
I didn't need to take it away. I didn't.
No, because that's my thinking too of like how messed up is that?
That's pretty bad.
Okay.
Oh.
Whew.
Mercy's sake.
So, really, Dad then, as years went on with foster care, we saw a little less and less of him because he was full blown into a drug addiction, alcoholic addiction.
He didn't have to come home to us anymore, so it didn't matter so much. He just really he let life take the reins, and he let go of really even trying at a certain point. When you're in foster care, they don't so much care for you to have contact with your biological parents. If you don't, it makes it a lot easier on the parents, makes it a lot easier on the caseworkers, because then they don't have to deal with it, And in a large part, that created a lot of distance between he and myself specifically, because he and I always had a really tight, really close relationship. I didn't have to suffer the same thing she did, I was the favorite, and he was vocal about me being the favorite. He told everybody. He told her, he told our brother, he said it out loud all the
child.
time. Yeah. So not speaking to him eventually created a lot more distance, and he blamed that for pushing him into more of a depression. He never really did work on himself very much, the ways he should have utilized that time to become a better person, which is something we view a lot about ourselves that separates us from where we came from.
Yeah. Definitely saw less of him, and really it got to a point where he ended up in a group home, one of the last homes he lived in, he was living with some lady. I don't know how he ever met these people.
Wow, yeah.
He was living with some random lady, and we went over to his house. He was facing prison time because he had actually stolen money from a buffet in Cape.
Yeah.
So at this point, he was facing prison time. And what's the one thing he always said? He would never go to prison.
Yeah.
He would go to jail. He would go in the hospital. He'd keep doing what he's doing, but he would never go to prison.
Yep.
And at that point, after living with my adoptive parents for a while, I wasn't adopted yet, but it was like so stable. And I was like, this is weird. And then like all of my childhood that I was looking back on kind of came back to me, and I was mad. I was mad. I can't say how mad I was because I can't use curse words right now. But I was really mad. And so my adoptive mother, told me maybe write a letter. I was like, okay, I can do that. I wrote a letter.
She wrote a letter.
I wrote a letter. And I let it all out. And I told him, how terrible he was. And how Chris raised us. And everything I said was true. But I was dealing with somebody who had brain injuries, mental health issues, and not a stable human in general. And I was 13 when I wrote this letter. 13 or 14. No, it was later than that. We were already with them. No. I was 14 going on 15 when I wrote it. And he got the letter, and he wrote me one back. And my heart breaks reading it as an adult. I still have it. And he felt like shit. Sorry about the cussing. This video is...
Yeah. Do you think?
I'm sorry, guys.
You're using small ones.
I am. So, soon after that, I remember the last time I saw him, he was standing outside that strange lady's house, and he was waving as we were driving away. I looked behind me, and I do that quite a bit because I never know the last time I'll see someone.
Yep.
And so I looked behind me and I saw him, and it's weird because I can pull that memory back right now, but I can't see him in it, but I can see the landscape around him. And in January
6, 2010. It's actually been 11 years.
Has it?
Yeah, I redid the
going
math
on
yesterday.
12?
I was like, yeah, I forget which year it was sometimes because I don't remember so much of my 20s.
I get that.
I blocked a lot of things out in my life.
So this I'll kind of let you take the reins of, because
January 2010, he was living in a group home, having a really hard time with some of the staff that worked there, wasn't really making any connections with anybody, and I had maybe spoken to him twice since we had lived there, or since he had lived there, rather. Really, communication was real thin at that point in time. He had a hard time with it, and he never took the steps to make himself a better person, never took the steps to help himself grow. So, he had told the administration at the home that he lived in that he needed a day away, that he just needed to go collect himself and be away from everybody for a day. So they allowed him furlough of a day to stay at a hotel. So he went and got a room at the townhouse inn in Cape Girardeau with the help of his counselor, who I also will not name, who, side note here, I ended up getting close with this guy completely randomly later on in my life and learned a lot of things, gave me a lot of closure. So, helped him set up a hotel room, whatever, dropped him off, was going to come see him the next day, had lunch with him. It was good. Things happen. Mm-hmm. That's why we're not using specific names to people anyways. So, somehow, this night, he was able to go on his own accord with nobody else's help gain access to enough prescription medicine that would have lasted him an entire month. His own prescriptions in his own name. We still don't know how this happened because he did not have access to his own medication. He wasn't supposed to have access to his own medication. So with a combination of every pill he could find in every bottle and only one beer out of a 4-pack that he had bought, he was found the next morning with Knocking on Heaven's Door playing on a loop. I still can't listen to that song, and if I need to say it for any reason, I don't own the rights to that. You never know. Sorry, gotta be a little lighthearted here.
Yeah.
They found him the next morning. I got a phone call. I was at work, and I start throwing stuff like, man, this garbage human being making me, I gotta go down and I'm sure get him out of jail again. Here we go, because I'm, well, how old was I then? Like 18?
You were 18, I was 15.
19. 18, yeah.
18.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. I was an adult, and, here we go again. So, we go down to Cape Girardeau Police Department. I'm like, where is he? And they wouldn't tell me anything. And now this is starting to get a little bit weird, because I've been through this before. And, they're like, oh, well, you messed up this time. I mean, he knew all the police by name, I was used to it. And they take us in a room, and they're letting us know all this. And I'm like, oh. Kind of feel like a little bit of a jerk now, because I was just cussing his name 5 minutes ago. And, identification. Left a note, not a pretty note, saying nobody cared, and whatever, what have you. And that was a wrap. That's about all I care to say about it right now.
Yeah. And the last thing I said to him was the letter I wrote him. So he left this earth with us never having closure, and that was really difficult for me. And it's still to this day is something that I do regret, because on top of me always having to say something with my big mouth, I said something to somebody that I will never be able to get closure with. But then again, spiritually, I feel closer to him than I ever had physically, because those people are staring at us.
That's fine.
But
you were heard. You were heard. You got to say what you had to say. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's good. You were able to finally get something out at least, and he took it how he took it.
Yeah.
There's nothing you could do about it. You were young, and if he would have taught you the things that you were supposed to have been taught as a child, then you wouldn't have not known,
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing you could do about that. That was in no way your fault. You were just a child needing that sense of self-expression and angry, with every right in the world to be angry.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So it did bring you some closure at first when you sent it, at least, and that's the feeling that you really need to focus on.
It's like that moment always made me scared to tell people. Like, I quieted up after that for a while. I didn't tell people how I thought, and I quit standing up for myself because somebody died whenever I did, and
oh man,
that really messed me up. Like, I'm just now at a point where I'm doing that again, but I'm learning how to do it in a much more kind, gentle way. With a little bit of seriousness behind it, because my words are valid.
Yeah, you need to be taken seriously.
And it's not my fault that he took his life after that.
It's not.
It's not our fault that he took his life.
He made his decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done on this.
Yeah. Let's see.
So the foster care system, the whole, point leading up from that was...
I had a different experience than he did, mainly because of the events that we've talked about.
And we survived, We're alive. We always had food, never had to worry about if the lights or the water were going to be on. So there were positive things, it just...
It wasn't ideal, because really the ideal thing would have been to have 2 biological parents that knew that they could handle kids and were ready for them and didn't lose them to the system. But our life didn't turn out that way. And who knows if we're ever going to have kids someday? I don't know. But my goal is to make sure that they have the stability that I did not have. And that foster care really did make an impact in my life, because I could be a much different person. I ended up going to get further education. I graduated high school. I've learned how to support myself. I've learned how to work. And I've learned over the years just how not to, I don't know, be a bad con person, be a con man.
Well, it's just how we learned growing up on, growing up on the streets, it's the cool thing to do to be good at that kind of stuff,
But it's not.
It's just part of growing up in that environment.
To have some type of stability, you can't live that lifestyle. And it's not good for kids.
It's not.
And just...
Yeah, we had to learn that on our own. Thank God it never landed us in jail or anything.
Yeah, for real. We were lucky.
We knew it wasn't right, but that was just... That's how we were taught. This is what you do, and it's wrong, but,
The bugs are starting to attack us, so I think we're going to go now.
You ready to wrap?
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry for how deep that was. Also not sorry. This is my story. I've had to live it, and I wanted to share a little bit with you. And if you've had similar things happen to you, or if you've had just a lot of crazy stuff happen, like, my heart goes out to you. And I hope that someday you can talk about it. Because, yeah, you're different. Like, I'm not even trying to be a hipster when I say that. No, my life has been different.
No,
and I'm not looking for attention. I'm not looking for anything else, because these are real struggles that I think about every year Father's Day comes around, every year that Mother's Day comes around.
We know we're not alone. That's the point of putting it out there. We want to share experiences with other people, because I know I'm not the only one that was sad yesterday, but that doesn't get talked about near as much. There needs to be transparency. All people, come out. Don't let your past ruin part of your soul, because it's not normal to talk about it. Get out and share your story. Don't worry about it so much,
And that's the thing. It's your story.
Right.
Like, so what? Somebody says you're being a downer. Well, maybe you should stop being an upper.
Because life is always up for everybody, man.
It's not.
Like, I know it's not. I have conversations with people, and that's all it takes. People.
And we're human. We have emotions.
Yeah.
And good and bad are just describing words that I'm going to push out of my vocabulary, because what am I feeling? I don't care if it's good or bad. It's how I feel.
Yeah. Yins and yangs, and there's balance, man. So if we only talk about the good things all the time, we're not being very realistic, are we?
Nope.
It's very important to discuss the positives and the negatives in life, and your experiences, and the things that still bother you, the things that you've locked away.
That's how you kind of bring up your vibration as well, is you have to work through those really deep, dark things to figure out how to raise yourself up to get a little bit more yang out of your life.
Absolutely.
You have to feel them. You have to know how you feel and how they impact you, your behaviors, your health, all of that.
For sure.
We are both cigarette free.
Yesterday was a month for me.
Yesterday was 2 days. I'm trying, but we've never done this at the same time.
Yeah, we're doing it together. We could have done it together a while back, but I didn't tell anybody I was quitting.
Yeah.
I quit, and then it was a week later that I said anything to anybody.
So what we're gonna do here is break down those generational curses, which is also another thing. We grew up around cigarettes and secondhand smoke.
It's the first time I haven't been addicted to anything since I was 18 years old.
And I'm breaking that right now. I'm day 2, and I'm getting a little feisty, but I'm gonna try to hold it down.
And I might have a problem with these toothpicks.
I'm gonna give you splinters.
And man, it's a real thing too. I've had to pick toothpick splinters out of my teeth. It's pretty horrible.
Yeah, but... All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and if you made it this far, thank you.
Much love to you
Much
guys.
love
and
to
we
you.
will be back with positivity videos as well, of course. Right now, yesterday was heavy for us. We got to get this out, and we want to share the experience.
It's real. This is where we're at.
It's okay. Don't let those things hold you back, and don't keep that locked away forever. Talk about your trauma. Come approach me. I am not too hard to find.
Come approach me too.
Yeah.
I'm not always mean.
But if you're a dude and you're gonna be weird, come approach me.
Oh my gosh.
There's weirdos on the internet. And we are talking to the internet.
Yeah, I know. He's always going to be a protective older brother.
And I'm not wrong.
I know.
She says she knows. You heard her.
All right.
All right. Love you guys.
Love you guys. Bye. Us not stopping.
I'll do it manually together.